Well, Ntando, you start us.
Yeah.
Or Yvette, if she's still on for a bit.
Wow.
Are we good to start, or are we waiting for a few more people?
I think we're still going to give just C numbers going up.
Yeah.
I see. All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this engagement this afternoon. My name is Linda-Gail. I am with the Desmond Tutu Health Foundation, as well as a member of Advocates for Prevention of HIV in Africa. And we are very happy that you are able to give an hour, in fact, of your Saturday this afternoon to really have this conversation and hear more about the update that we have for you in a conversation that's going to be happening amongst the leaders of the Sisonke vaccine program. So we are really very happy to have you. Please, you will remain on mute, and you will also have, as you know, an opportunity to ask questions or even remarks. So please, for that, use the chat option that you have, as well as the question and answer option that we have. And we really are not going to waste any time. We are going to go ahead. And in fact, just to also say, this is going to be introduced because today we have the honor of a conversation that's largely happening between Professor Glenda Gray of the South African Medical Research Council, as well as Professor Linda-Gail Bekker of the Desmond Tutu Health Foundation. And in fact, we have other people who are going to be joining the conversation to really give us a lot more information, who are as much involved in the program. We have Sister Alicia James, who is also going to be giving an input based on her experiences in the program, as well as Sister Silent Malan, as well as Simbarashe Takuva. All are going to be sharing different perspectives according to their experiences and their involvement in the program. So we shall just right away take it away and hand over to Professor Linda-Gail Bekker to give us a quick update and introduce this program. Over to you, LGB.
Great, thank you very much indeed, Ntando, and hello to the advocates, the activists, and just anybody who's interested to know more about the Sisonke program. And so it's my great pleasure to quickly launch and catch you all up on exactly what Sisonke is. And then I'll hand over to Glenda just to update and give some reflections on the program and how it's going. So we have to start with the Ad26-CoV2 vaccine, which is, as you all know, the Johnson & Johnson. This is a recombinant replication incompetent adenovirus type 26 vector constructed to encode the SARS-CoV-2, all to say that this is a viral vector platform type vaccine. You've all heard about the messenger RNA. This is the alternative type of a viral vector, and it is using the Ad26. Those of you who are HIV vaccine advocates will know that the Imbocordor vaccine trial is a close cousin of this for HIV, and that trial, as you all know, has fully enrolled and is still in the field here in South Africa. It is administered as a single dose intramuscular injection. And of course, there has been quite a lot of experimentation with this vaccine already. So we have had phase 1 and 2, and you see a wide array of people have been exposed to the Ad26 COVID vaccine throughout the world, as old as upwards of 65 years old, people with comorbidities, and ongoing experimentation going on with this Ad26 vaccine. We know, again, from our phase 1s and 2s that it is very immunogenic and extremely safe. And based on this, we know that a phase 3 has been conducted here in North America and in South America. And important for you all to know that the ensemble or phase 3 study, which was led by Glenda and others internationally, and Glenda and myself here in South Africa, enrolled just about 7,000 South Africans. So 3,500 South Africans were exposed to this vaccine through the ensemble study. And we have seen the results of that, the preliminary results, which has resulted in early licensure for early use in North America and in Europe. So this trial, the ensemble trial, looked at endpoints after 14 days of vaccination, 14 days after vaccination, and 28 days after vaccination, looking at incidence of severe or critical COVID-19. And here's the important data for you all to remember. So first point I want to make is we have results of the Ad26 J&J vaccine. It was shown to be 72% effective in the States, 66% effective overall when you consider North, South America and South Africa, 86% effective in preventing severe disease 28 days after vaccination, and complete protection. In other words, 100% protection in people 28 days after infection, and that is in terms of hospitalization and death. When we think about South Africa, even though we had this horrible B1351 virus circulating at this time, we saw a 64% protection here in South Africa. So here's the Kaplan-Meier. We really like to see graphs like this, where there's a very clear distinction between the vaccine arm and the placebo arm. And when it comes to safety, again, confirmed in the phase 3 trial that this really is a very safe vaccine. We do see reactogenicity, and we'll talk more about that in a moment, but really a very safe vaccine. The good news, and this is the breaking news, is that it does also look like the vaccine has impact on asymptomatic infection. Now, this is important when we're wanting to break transmission and actually have a bigger impact than hospitalization and death. And this data is accruing and gaining momentum. But at the time that we went to the FDA for the EUA, it wasn't yet significant. But I think important to see that the trend is looking very promising. So overall, and I think this is important to say, we have finished this experiment. The vaccine is effective. It has good immunogenicity. It's very safe, and it is licensed in a good part of the world, and hopefully will be licensed here too. So SAMRC is reviewing this at the moment. So let's think about all the vaccines we have available to us at the moment. We've got Johnson & Johnson at the top there. We know that it's efficacious in South Africa. AstraZeneca, as you all know, we didn't have data of its efficacy against the variant in South Africa, and it's for this reason that AstraZeneca was put on hold. The Sputnik vaccine from Russia is under review by SAMRC at the moment, but of course we haven't seen it in the field in South Africa yet. Same with Pfizer, although we have very good results of Pfizer in other parts of the world. The Novavax vaccine also shown to have impact here in South Africa, so that is promising. And then Sinopharm is the Chinese vaccine, which also we understand will be coming for review, but hasn't been tested here in South Africa yet. So again, just to give you the pictures, so you have these numbers in your head, 64% in South Africa for moderate to severe disease, 82% against severe disease, and 100% against death. So we know it is safe, it's efficacious, and it's easy to roll out. It's a single dose as an intramuscular injection, but not yet licensed in South Africa. So with the stoppage of the AstraZeneca trial, Glenda and the team from Ensemble appealed to Johnson & Johnson together with the NDOH to say, could we bring research doses into the country for a 3B study that could then also serve as an early access for vaccine for people in South Africa, particularly healthcare workers. And so that was the beginning of Sisonke. It's a 3B study, as mentioned, and it is sitting at the front of the rollout that the National Department of Health will implement once they access other vaccines, including J&J once it's licensed. But at this point, without any other vaccines in the country, without a licensed product, Sisonke is kind of holding that place for us and allowing us to do something positive for healthcare workers. So Sisonke is a research study evaluating effectiveness at scale in a real world setting. We are focusing on frontline healthcare workers for the reason that we want to be sure that they are healthy and on their feet should a third wave hit us in the winter. And obviously this does provide early access to at-risk healthcare workers. There is no placebo involved in this, so it is not like the clinical trial that was called Ensemble. We have finished that trial, or that trial is ongoing, but its results are out. So we know that the product is safe and efficacious. And what we're talking about with this 3B now is a real world setting effectiveness study to see how it operates when we do it within a kind of rollout environment. So we obviously do have clear objectives. We sent these to SAMRC and to our ethics committees, and this 3B study has been approved both by SAMRC and a number of ethics committees in the country. We are looking, as mentioned, at effectiveness of AD26 compared with the unvaccinated population in South Africa. We will also clearly be monitoring safety, breakthrough infections, and a number of other less secondary type objectives, as you see on this slide. Important pharmacovigilance will be going on, and Simba will talk about that in a moment. So we are, in essence, kind of putting this 3B study on the front of the rollout, And so we've really embedded it within the normal rollout program as it will occur once vaccines come to South Africa. So we still are using the government's electronic data system. What we are asking people to do, though, is consent to be part of Sisonke. So there's an additional e-consent, and it's important everybody is fully aware that they are part of a study. And then the normal process again kicks in, where they fit into the vaccine centers and are vaccinated by government registered vaccinators at a variety of vaccine centers. So the important steps are, we ask people to register as normal on the electronic system. Their eligibility is checked there. They have to then go into an e-consent for Sisonke, which is all online. They then will be invited to vaccine centers where they are checked for other important considerations, whether they have allergies and or are pregnant. At this point, we are not involving pregnant women, but we hope to amend that soon. If they have allergies, that is not a contraindication, but we take greater care of individuals who may have an allergy type history. And then, of course, they move on to vaccination. So all of that happens within one visit. And afterwards, there is a safety desk follow-up, which Simba will talk to. Who are we really seeking to recruit? Healthcare workers who are adult and not pregnant, who are patient-facing, and who are most likely to be exposed, therefore come from high-burdened regions and or work in places where they are most likely to be exposed. Secondarily, we are thinking of healthcare workers who are older and or have comorbidities. So these are the people that are being prioritized in the first instance, and obviously are being sequenced. Although as we get through the front of the queue, those who are further at the back of the queue will be able to be vaccinated as well. So we are very much linked to the Ensemble research sites. And you see that we started with 18 vaccine centers at the beginning, very much linked to the research sites. And from there, we've been able to expand. So I show these slides merely to show that we've gone from 18 to 49, and we will be adding even more sites this week with closure of completed sites. So sites that have mopped up all of their healthcare workers may close as we move to other areas to ensure that we can get the vaccine out. And this is where we sat as of last night, 142,000 healthcare workers, almost 143,000 around the country. What have we heard so far? Well, the vaccine is reactogenic, which is a good thing, right? So we want vaccines to stir up the immune system. That means they're doing their work. We know, though, that is short-lived and mild. We know that this vaccine is safe in breastfeeding. We haven't been able to include pregnant women yet, but I'm sure Glenda will talk to the fact that we're hoping to amend that. And of course, people with comorbidities are particularly people we want to ensure get a vaccine. People with allergies can be involved and vaccinated, but we just want them to tell us so we can take all the precautions needed. And there is a 28-day period before full protection kicks in. So it's important people know that and take precautions for the first month after vaccination. I'm going to leave this because Simba will be picking this up, but of course we are telling everybody what to expect after vaccination. And we're also asking people to be patient because we can only vaccinate as fast as we can vaccinate. And we're doing this, we're working night and day to try and get this out as quickly as possible. And of course, we're doing this in full partnership with both the national and provincial departments of health. And that is Sisonke. So I'll hand over to Glenda.
Thanks. I'm not too sure what I can say after Linda-Gail, but I think the important thing is to say that this is a phase 3B open label study. I saw in the chat box, why is there no placebo? Are people being randomized? So there is no placebo because we know the vaccine works. And so we don't have to randomize to placebo or vaccine because everybody will get vaccinated. So there'll be no randomization. Why are we doing it? We're doing it because we found ourselves in a situation in South Africa that we could no longer use the AstraZeneca vaccine because there was a lack of evidence that this vaccine worked in South Africa as yet. And so we had data that the J&J study worked. And so we were in a period of time where the vaccine was not registered anywhere, but we knew the vaccine worked. And so we engaged with the SAMRC, with J&J and the government, and we developed an early access program where we could give up to 500,000 healthcare workers the vaccine. It's an important thing that we've done this because I think we've helped to unlock some of the challenges that the government needs to deal with before they go on to full-scale rollout. So I think this is a good pilot program so that we can try and unlock some of the stopgaps, try and see where the bottlenecks are and see what are the constraints to the queues, to drawing up vaccines. So some of the things that we think are easy, like syringes. There's a global shortage of syringes. I'm not too sure if you know. When we first bought the syringes for Sisonke, they cost 50 Rand a pack. They're now 400 Rand a pack. So there's a global shortage of syringes. So it's not just the vaccines that we're worried about, but actually is trying to access the syringes as well for the vaccinations. We also find that when we do vaccinate, there's a lot of training that needs to happen. And some of the things that we think are no-brainers, actually you need a lot of quality assurance, and we need to make sure people know how to draw up a vaccine and how to deliver it in a way that's appropriate. So as Linda-Gail says, around 145,000 people have been vaccinated. Can you believe it that 74% of these are women, which is amazing. So that is incredible. And that we're vaccinating around 6,257 people a day. We are bringing in vaccines, every couple of days. So there are around 40,000 vaccines coming in every few days. And this is to get to up to 500,000. And the reason why the vaccines are coming in drips, it seems like drips and drabs to us, is that we don't want there to be any vaccine stockouts. And so I know some hospitals and some centers use up all their vaccine very quickly, but the whole idea is to try and spread out the vaccines over a week so that no one is left out. So we are bringing in vaccines in small batches to be deployed very rapidly. And it always feels like we don't have enough vaccine in the country because there's such demand. And so we really want to appreciate the healthcare workers who really have basically rolled up their sleeves and have agreed to be vaccinated on this program, and have seen that even though the vaccine is yet to be registered in this country, that there's compelling use to use it. And so we just want to appreciate everybody for enrolling into Sisonke, and grateful that we can vaccinate so many women, and also to address the issues of pregnancy. And in the beginning we had to exclude pregnant women, but now that there is an EUA, that's emergency use authorization in the US, allows us to be able to then expand the eligibility criteria to pregnant women. So we will be enrolling pregnant women going forward, and that this program, hopefully we can finish by mid-April, end of April, so that we can then move on to the next part of the rollout, which will be the Pfizer. Hopefully that'll come in the next month or so, and we'll be able to transition from the Sisonke program to the Pfizer program. But just to say that we really do believe that it's imperative to vaccinate all our healthcare workers before the third wave. That part of our program will be to monitor any breakthrough infections that we get in this in this study. We're very interested to know how the virus behaves under vaccine pressure, and that's important to help us design the next phase of the program. I know there's a lot of frustration. I think I saw in the chat box that people they have vouchers, they had their times, they got to Albert Luthuli Hospital, and they couldn't get their vaccine. We need to hear about all of these things. So if you find you have a voucher and you can't get your vaccine, please let us know, and we will try and facilitate you to get it. We do want everyone who has a voucher and who has been identified to get their vaccine. So please, the Albert Luthuli people, send us your details so that we can try and sort you out in the next couple of weeks. We ask you to be patient. Everybody wants to be vaccinated yesterday, and we will get to all of you. We'll get to 500,000. And thank you so much for being part of the program. Simba will tell you a little bit about the reactogenicity. And obviously people get alarmed when they get reactor. And I think we want to just say healthcare workers are highly exposed to SARS-CoV-2. There is a lot of reactogenicity, but this doesn't mean that this is a good thing, as Linda-Gail said, because it means that you know you got your vaccine. And we can still talk to you about ways of managing it. But also importantly, we do need to know if you have allergies, tell us so we can manage the vaccine with you. A lot of healthcare workers are scared to tell us that they have allergies because they're scared we're going to withhold the vaccine, and so they don't tell us. And then it is always a catastrophe or a fiasco afterwards. We can manage allergies. There's been no anaphylaxis. That's a very important thing. So unlike the Pfizer vaccine, we've yet to see an anaphylaxis, but we have had some severe allergic reactions, which we could have avoided if the healthcare workers felt that comfortable. And so it's a lot about trust, and we're not going to withhold a vaccine. We're rather going to work with you to do it properly. And we've had some people who had severe allergies who called us before they were about to have they called us 2 or 3 days before the vaccination, and we had a whole process in place for them so that they had very little side effects, because we managed the whole process much better than if we don't know. So don't be scared. Just tell us and we can work with you. We're not going to withhold any vaccination, but we'd rather do it in a way that prevents you from having side effects and events that make it hard for you to get back to work. So I'm going to end there. It's been a wonderful privilege to work with Linda-Gail and the team. I must tell you that there are less than 10 people, less than the 10 digits on my two hands that have basically worked night and day to make this happen. So I'm deeply indebted to Linda-Gail Bekker and the rest of the members who've worked tirelessly to deliver the vaccines to the healthcare workers of South Africa. So be patient with us. We're all learning as we roll this up, but we're deeply committed to making sure you get your vaccines. So I'm going to leave it over to Simba.
Thank you, Glenda. Thank you, Linda-Gail, Ntando, Yvette, Catherine. So I'm sharing screen now. To begin, I'll expand further on what we already know about the safety of this vaccine product. Overall safety data from the phase 3 trial that enrolled about 44,000 participants, including close to 6,500 in South Africa, demonstrated that a single dose of this vaccine has an acceptable safety and reactogenicity profile in participants. So that's in adult participants, including adults that were over 60 years of age. The safety profile of the vaccine is further supported by data from more than 200,000 individuals. And if we count the numbers that have been vaccinated in South Africa to date, perhaps we can say in more than 300,000 individuals who have been exposed to similar platforms that are similar to this vaccine in the context of other therapeutic areas. For instance, the same vaccine platform for the COVID vaccine has been used in other areas like Ebola, RSV, and other viral diseases as well. We'll talk a bit more about reactogenicity and the type of reactogenicity events that we are seeing in the South African healthcare worker population. However, from the phase 3 trial, we also have learned that the vaccine has an acceptable reactogenicity profile. And the reactogenicity was demonstrated to be transient. And as you can see in those pictures, in terms of the reactogenicity, it was broadly categorized into, or it's broadly categorized into local reactogenicity or systemic reactogenicity. So when looking at local reactogenicity, these are side effects or events or reactions that happen at or around the injection site. So for instance, injection site pain, redness or hardness on the injection site, and also maybe swelling around the injection site. And as you can see from those graphs, overall, the frequency of reactogenicity events that were very severe in nature, that is requiring more than the minimal self-attention or medical attention, were very, very, very low. However, there was quite some reactogenicity when you compared the vaccine to the placebo. So for instance, more participants that got the vaccine had reactogenicity than participants that got the placebo. So this is expected. And then when you look at the systemic adverse events or the systemic reactogenicity events, these are events like, for instance, after vaccination, you feel weak, you feel fatigued, you feel lethargic, you may have a headache, you may experience some fever, some muscle aches and pains, and at times nausea as well. These were observed more in the vaccine group as expected. But again, the good thing is that with reactogenicity events, these are transient, meaning that they are self-limiting and really within 2 to 3 days after injection, they would have resolved. Then looking at all the other AEs, overall, as you can see from that table, there were no apparent differences in the AEs reported between the vaccine and the placebo group. And most of those AEs or most of those adverse events were either grade 1 or grade 2. Meaning they were either mild or moderate in severity. And when you look at adverse events that are classified or categorized as mild or moderate in severity, these are adverse events that would really result maybe in minimal interference with your usual and social functional activities. And at times you might need to maybe take some medication, but really you'll still be able to function. Then if you look at what we call your medically attended adverse events or your serious adverse events, they also did not occur at a higher proportion in the vaccine group compared to placebo. This actually illustrates that the vaccine has demonstrated safety in clinical trials. And also so far in the Sisonke study, there have been no safety concerns of note. So let's get back to reactogenicity. And before we look at how we ensure safety of participants in Sisonke, it's really important that we look at what to expect after getting a COVID vaccine. As Linda-Gail emphasized, it's totally normal to experience side effects during the first 2 days after vaccination. So you're looking at about the same day of the vaccination up to about 2 days after vaccination. It's actually a sign of your body building up immunity. And here is what you may experience. Again, on the arm where you got the injection, so that's your local reactogenicity symptoms or signs. You might have felt pain, maybe some swelling, maybe some hardness or induration. And usually for the pain, if you take pain medication, it goes away. And at times it may not be necessary to take the pain medication depending on how you tolerate pain. For instance, you might want to apply a cool washcloth over the injected area. And then throughout the rest of your body, which is what we refer to as systemic reactogenicity signs and symptoms. Commonly, you may experience fever, then also chills, headache, tiredness, joint aches, muscle aches, nausea. So these are flu-like symptoms. But again, as we sort of like emphasized in the previous slide, these are really transient, as in they're self-limiting. Within 2 to 3 days after vaccination, they usually go away. But should it happen that maybe, for instance, the swelling on the arm or the redness on the arm is increasing in size, or the symptoms are not going away after a few days, then it may be essential to contact your healthcare provider. But from the experience that we've had with the Ensemble trial and the current experience with Sisonke, where we have vaccinated over 142,000+ healthcare workers, this has been extremely rare. We're not seeing much of that. Most of the reactogenicity that we are seeing, it's really self-limiting and it goes away after 2 to 3 days. I'll show you some data in a slide or so. Then also coming to allergic reactions, I think it's been clearly expressed that if you have a history of allergy or have reacted to injections before or vaccinations before, it is really important that you disclose this information. If you look at other COVID vaccines that have already been deployed where they saw like severe allergic reactions, they actually showed when they analyzed that data that most of those persons already had some atopy or some predisposition to allergy. So that history is very important. And as Glenda put it through, it's not that if you disclose, then we exclude you, but this allows the team to actually work together with you and avoid such experiences. So in Sisonke thus far, we have not seen any allergic reactions that are known as anaphylaxis, which is a really bad allergic reaction. Even though we have not seen that kind of reaction, the staff that actually administer vaccines and also the clinical research sites that oversee this process, they are trained in this and they have algorithms and material to support the management of participants who may experience this should it happen. And also vaccination sites need to have emergency trolleys and need to be prepared so any form of allergic reaction. But once again, I would like to emphasize that this kind of allergic reaction is very rare. And in the other vaccines that have been deployed, like the mRNA vaccines, this has occurred at a rate of about 2 to 5 per million injections or 2 to 5 per million vaccinations. Some put it at 1 to 10 per million vaccinations. What's also important is that because we also want to understand how the virus performs under vaccination pressure, should you experience any symptoms or constellations of symptoms that are consistent with COVID infection, you need to report those. You need to let us know of those. Now, this is an overview of safety monitoring and Sisonke. So there are a number of players and a number of levels that are involved, showing that we do not take safety lightly. There are a lot of different layers, and at each layer there are checks and balances as well. For instance, if we start at the bottom there, we have the vaccination sites and the clinical research sites. So the staff, they are trained in managing any medical concerns, and they are also supported by experienced investigators and staff from the Ensemble clinical trial sites. And then when you go further up, you have the safety desk. So this is made up of a team of nurses that are trained in vaccine safety and safety physicians as well. We function in sort of like a safety call center. We attend to medical queries that come through the call center, and events of further concern are usually escalated either to the safety physicians by the nurses or to the PSRT. So speaking of the PSRT, which is the Protocol Safety Review Team, they provide overall safety oversight in the study. So this is made up of senior experienced clinician protocol leadership members. They review cumulative safety reports and are alerted if there are any safety concerns timeously. And as an additional layer, there is an independent safety monitoring committee, which is made up of independent experts with combined experience in clinical trials, vaccines, statistics, infectious disease, to provide that overall additional layer of safety oversight. We are also required to report frequently to SAMRC, and also the ethics committees and the manufacturer of any safety events that are of concern that occur. And then now let's look at the detailed safety monitoring of vaccinees within the Sisonke study. So vaccinees that experience side effects or adverse events may report mainly via 3 different streams currently. So if we start at the top with 1A, where it says data flows from the safety desk call center, this is whereby a participant might have a medical event of concern or a side effect, and then they call the safety desk. Or at times it might be through what is known in pharmacovigilance as sporadic case reports, whereby you have a doctor calling the safety team and saying, hey, I've treated a person who has the signs of symptoms, or I've been informed by the hospital that someone with the signs and symptoms has been admitted. So that's one way in which the data comes through to the safety desk. Another way, if you look at 1B, data is also captured manually from forms that are found in the health facilities. I'm sure if you've moved around in the health facilities, there are some forms from the vaccination surveillance program, whereby if someone has been vaccinated and if they come back or if they experience side effects soon after vaccinations, those forms are completed. And with those forms, if they are completed, they are emailed straight to the vaccination program, who then email it back to the safety desk, or they are emailed directly to the safety desk. And these are captured onto the safety desk database. And then the third form of reporting is what is illustrated there as 1C at the bottom. This is through an electronic adverse event reporting form. So if you're registered on EVDS and then go ahead and get vaccinated, after vaccination, you receive texts which actually have that link. So that link takes you to an electronic reporting form. And to date, more than 95% of reports have been received through this form. And all that data is then reposited into that electronic database. So the advantage of this database is that because it's electronic, it allows near real-time identification of potential safety signals. For instance, if a person enters data or data is submitted that someone has been hospitalized or they are not getting better after a prescribed minimum period, this then alerts the safety desk, that is the safety physicians and the nurses, to then contact that participant and evaluate further. And if needed, they're able to facilitate linkage to care timeously. Also, on a daily basis, we are able to extract reports from this database, which sort of like flag out issues of concern. So for instance, in those reports that we extract daily, we are able to flag out if there are issues of medical concern, like maybe if someone is saying they've got an extremely high fever, or they've been admitted in hospital, or maybe they are unable to function at all, or they have this serious or severe side effects. We are able to extract that data on a daily basis and then follow them up, and then if you look at 7, which is your extreme upper right quadrant, additionally, we are working, and this is almost happening, to link with the National Health Laboratory Service and the NICD databases in order to identify promptly any persons who might get hospitalized with COVID. I'm sure you've heard of the DTHF surveillance system, whereby it's a surveillance system where they're monitoring anyone who gets admitted for any COVID-related sickness or illness. And also, we're able to identify promptly any persons who actually test positive for COVID. So hopefully that can further tighten up the way in which we monitor safety and prevent any leakages, in a sense. So if you look at this pharmacovigilance system within Sisonke, it's been designed such that we are able to identify medical issues of concern or side effects promptly, and also we are able to measure the side effects that are occurring in the vaccinees. Last but not least, I would like to just show you some numbers in terms of what has been reported so far. So this was up to yesterday evening. So out of the 142,215 persons that have been vaccinated, a total of 3,030 adverse events have been reported. This is just above 2%. And we followed up just over 100 of persons telephonically. So these are persons who, from evaluating the database, we managed to pick up some red flags to say, hey, there might be something of concern with this person. Let's get on the phone, call them, and then find out what exactly is happening. And then in terms of in terms of electronic follow-ups, so what happens is that 7 to 10 days after vaccination, every vaccinee now receives an SMS or a text with a link that asks them how they are doing since the last time they reported an adverse event. So far, in terms of the eligible persons to be contacted, just above 1,000 have been contacted. So this is contacting people that have received or people that have reported adverse event. Just above 1,000 have been contacted of those that have reported adverse event. And close to 3 and 4, that is close to 75%, have actually completely recovered, and just above 1 in 5, that is just above 20%, are recovering or getting better. So overall, in terms of those that are completely recovered or are recovering or getting better, that's above 96%. And then there's a small proportion that has responded that they're not recovering or they feel like they're not getting better at all. So that's like 3.8% of 40. So what we then do is that those persons, we then also follow them up to find out a bit more on how they're doing. So some of the common reactogenicity and adverse events that have been reported in Sisonke have included your minor local reactions like small swellings, redness, induration or hardness. Some have mentioned like seeing something that might look like a rash around the injection site, but a small rash which then disappears. And others have also mentioned a lot of pain around the injection site, but this is usually self-limiting and will have disappeared by day 3. Then there have also been reports of minor systemic reactions, like feeling your flu-like symptoms, like a mild headache, mild pain. So that's pain that is just generalized. You feel like your muscles are sore. And then also fevers as well, and sometimes described as sweats. And also some have also reported joint pains, etc. And just to emphasize, we have not really seen serious adverse events or any events that are of concern that are related to the vaccine. I think in a nutshell, that's an overview of how we ensure safety monitoring in the Sisonke trial. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Simba Takuva, and we get that update, safety and more safety protocols, processes, as well as bodies that evaluate safety. We think within the few minutes that we have, we really would like to hear from the people who are in the front line of vaccinating and somebody who has received the vaccine, and the two we're going to hand over to them, which is Sister Celente Malan as well as Sister Alicia James. Please share with us your experiences.
Right, thank you. So I am Sister Celente Malan. I work for and I have been present since day one of the start of the rollout and all the planning, making sure everything is okay. And there's a lot of teamwork that goes into this project. It's a collaboration between the administration, the IT, the Sisonke team, who's drawing up the vaccines, who's bringing everything back, and then also eventually reaching the vaccinators. And as a vaccinator, I have realized the importance of explaining to your candidates what to expect after the vaccine, doing all the assessments beforehand, like you mentioned, checking for chronic comorbidities, checking for risks and allergies, pregnancy, and just telling people what to expect makes them feel more at ease. So in the beginning, there was a lot of anxiety with the vaccinees, and the first batch had their vaccines, and everyone who followed and saw their beautiful photos on Facebook and WhatsApp and all that started feeling more encouraged and more empowered to come and get the vaccine. So I think what the lessons we've learned up to this far is the importance of teamwork and collaboration, also between private and public sectors coming together, and educating people to know exactly what to expect of the vaccine. There was some who were completely against the vaccine, and once they saw the effect on others, they were actually willing to take it. So yes, a lot of collaboration. Also, it's a very easy process to enroll and get your voucher number, get in the queue, and we have a whole team of people who guide you as to where to go, get your vaccine, and then after.
We hope Celente has not lost connection because of HCOM. All right, you're back. Please go ahead, unmute and go ahead and really just for a few minutes so that we can hand over to Alicia. Just unmute, please.
Okay, sorry, so sorry. I think activity problem. So very important is just to collaborate with the rest of the team, educate people and encourage them to get their vaccine. After being vaccinated, we do have a team that's also present, observer and someone who's trained in reaction and anaphylaxis management to also help in case there are people who do experience some minor side effects. So yes, it's a lovely thing to be part of. It's an absolute privilege to be here today, and I thank you. That's basically it from me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Celente. Thank you. And over to you, Alicia, as somebody who has received a vaccination, and we have heard all about the processes that are involved and the experiences and many things, but you have been on the last end of receiving all of this. Please confirm it to us if all of it is true.
Thanks very much, Thando. And just firstly, thank you to Linda-Gail and Glenda and Simba for the science part. I think I'm going to do the last but not least, the fun part. And just to contextualize, I'm the CTU manager for J52, but I'm speaking more from the background of being a vaccinee. I was privileged to be part of the ensemble conducting the JJ clinical trial, so it was extremely exciting for me when we were told that we were actually choosing the J&J vaccine as the vaccine of choice for South Africa. So it was exhilarating for us to be part of receiving the first consignment. And I was just not being held back in the office. I wanted to be part of the action. But also being the custodians, we were the custodians of the vaccine. So I was part of the group doing the vaccine distribution and speaking to health professionals just also about the process and making sure that the flow goes as planned as per the Sisonke protocol. And I think that yourself being a community liaison person, the key thing is trust and integrity. And I speak from myself being also a little bit of a doubtful Thomas initially. When you do research, you need to do it with conviction and believe in the product that you're doing research on. And so I must admit, during the initial stages, I had my own reservations and an internal debate about whether I should take the vaccine, despite being patient-facing and working closely with my colleagues. But I think that doubt was very short-lived, when the realization was there that the vaccine had become our best defense. A pandemic of this magnitude was something we didn't sign up for. So it had to be dealt with quickly, and we had to really think on our feet. So I'm very privileged to have worked, as part of a team. But as a vaccinee, I think my personal decision to take the vaccine was informed by the fact that all the benefits that this product displayed outweighed the risks. A risk for me at work and also towards my family, but also my colleagues who I work with, which is very important. We were never in lockdown, so we were always at the forefront. From a personal point of view, I've got a husband who's a post quadruple bypass with compromised lung capacity. My daughter is a frontline who works in a red zone. And so as part of a research team, for me, it was important to be part of the solution. And I'm going to say this and encourage family, colleagues, and friends that I needed to be exemplary and take the first step. And I can surely say that Facebook is an amazing tool at the best of times. And since imagery of receiving the first consignment and me taking my vaccine hit Facebook, I've been inundated with calls from healthcare workers, colleagues, and friends. How do I get onto EVDS? Helping colleagues to get on and register for the vaccine. And I think just to conclude, for the sake of time, I think we as healthcare workers who have been vaccinated, I think we have an obligation to specifically our communities, which you have a direct link to be advocates, to encourage people once it rolls out to the public, to advocate to taking the vaccine. We need to claim back the well-being of this country, and that resides in our hands to be able to do that. Do this for yourself, do it for your family and friends, and for our fellow South Africans. And I think Glenda and Linda-Gail, I think I have a good idea that we should have noddy badges saying I've been vaccinated, speak to me. But it's been an exciting journey, and I think that we on a road to winning this battle. But it's been, and just closing the side effects, I could really say was minimum. All of a slight headache, which 2 Panados fixed, a little bit of body ache the next day, and within half midday the next day, we were good to go. And in actual fact, our entire team was vaccinated on the same day, and we were back on site, ready to roll out to the critical colleagues the next day. So it's been an exciting journey. It still is. And we look forward to rolling it out to the other health facilities as well. Thanks very much, Ntando.
We need to claim back the well-being of our country, and that begins with us as an individuals, for our families and the community at large. thank you very much for those experiences that you have shared about this program. And we're really we are over time, but if you have to leave, but please know that you can still post your questions, because we have the recording of this on the Desmond Tutu Health Foundation Facebook page. That page will remain there. You can post your questions or even inbox us. We'll really try to get back to you with answers, because this is a very important engagement in the midst of a lot of information, misinformation and disinformation around a very important program that we're supposed to have as a country. And for a few minutes, we're really going to look into the questions that you have asked, and some have been answered, but if you really need more information, please continue. Tebuho has asked questions, Brian, Aphelele, and Bronwyn. I will really just hand over to anyone who sees a question that they feel they can take over. I see you. Over to you, Professor Linda-Gail Bekker.
Thanks, Ntando. I'll pick up the one on hesitancy. I think there was some polling around the country on vaccine hesitancy prior to Sisonke's start, and quite concerning. Some provinces actually quite high rates of vaccine hesitancy. I must say, we have felt, and I'd love to hear Glenda's view on this, we have felt that actually as time has gone by and momentum has built, that actually we're finding the opposite. And this is why we're asking people to be patient. There's a lot of demand and a lot of impatience and a sense of urgency amongst our healthcare worker colleagues to get vaccinated, which obviously is great news. And I think what Alicia was alluding to is that as people have seen others getting vaccinated, that has helped to reassure. And we know vaccine hesitancy often is based in fear, ignorance, or lack of good information. And so I think this webinar is one of many opportunities to try and spread good information. And I think we're appealing to the advocates on this webinar as well to go out there and make sure that sound information is being circulated to try and reduce that sense of hesitancy.
Thank you very much. And we really can address a lot of fear and ignorance through engagement to really address all of the issues that keep coming up. And we are right 2 minutes after the hour, after 5. And I think we really at this point want to welcome, thank you all for attending this Sisonke vaccine program update that has been brought to you by the Desmond Tutu Health Foundation and friends to really give this overall and all update. Like we have said, if you go to our Facebook page, the Desmond Tutu Health Foundation Facebook page, you will still get the recording. Please share far and wide so that we get out and we get the word out there around vaccination and this important update. I think at this point, we really are going to say thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ntando.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Ntando.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.